And so that certainly was good information to have, for this game. And, we played guys longer than we probably would have otherwise. But it's a game we wanted to get. It's a game our guys really wanted to get. And so they fought to get it. And once again, I can't say enough about Boban and how he hung in there from start to finish. DeLon Wright made some great defensive plays. He had a huge three. His activity was a big part of the win as well.
COVID-19 obviously has an incubation period, and Rudy is an NBA player who has played other NBA teams and so on. Is there thought processes to testing the players on this team, or being extra?
You're asking questions that are beyond anything that I've been told. I'm sure that the league is doing a very deep dive into the appropriate next steps, and we'll just wait to hear and see what those are. We're off tomorrow anyway, and so that's what I know.
Rick, what can you say about Courtney Lee's contribution to not only this game but also just this season in general?
I love Lee, and he's a guy that's been, when he came in the trade last February, if you'd have tried to find Vegas odds on him being here beyond this trade deadline this year, the odds would have been very long that he would be here. But he's established himself as a guy that is a hell of an NBA player. He's a great leader in the locker room. He's a mentor to our young guys, everyone, from Luka to KP, to our other younger guys, Brunson, et cetera. And, he's earned the right to be on this team this year, and he's gained everyone's respect.
Rick, it's obviously still early on in this unique situation, but stepping out onto the court is like a sanctuary for you.
Scott Van Pelt with you here at ESPN Sports Center. It's about 11 o'clock Eastern time. We were supposed to be bringing you the Pelicans and the Kings, but that game has been postponed on a night where the NBA has suspended its season following what happened in Oklahoma City with the positive diagnosis for Rudy Gobert of the coronavirus. This game was to have been played, the final game of the night, the Pelicans and the Kings, I beg your pardon. And not long before this game was set to jump, about 10 minutes before, players left the floor. Dave Pasch said, I don't know if they're going to play, and then it was determined that they would not. Andrew Lopez joins us now. You're with this Pelicans team, and they were supposed to play tonight, and then they didn't, and you've been with some of the key members of that front office and the team since then. What happened tonight, and why didn't they play?
Everything started maybe about 20 minutes before tip when I think both teams realized that one of the officials assigned to the game tonight had worked a Jazz game, the Jazz-Toronto game, on Monday. So they came in contact with the entire Utah Jazz team, even though Rudy Gobert did not play that night. So they started to express concern. The Kings came out for warm-ups. The Pelicans were a little bit more apprehensive. The Pelicans never came out of the locker room. They seemed to gather, and players from both teams expressed a lot of concern to the NBA on whether or not they should play this game, and obviously the NBA ended up agreeing with them.
Any specific comments from within that team, the locker room or front office about tonight?
One of the players walked out of the locker room completely dressed, maybe 25 minutes after the cancellation, and just kind of shook his head and said, this is crazy. The players don't really know what to think right now. Some of the players, I think Lonzo Ball actually tried to come out and get shots up after the cancellation was made, just because that's part of what he does. And I think Brandon Ingram had to go out and pull him off the court and say, no, man, we're really not playing tonight. So the Pelicans are kind of in a daze, walking out that locker room, gathering their stuff. They're trying to get ready to leave, but it's just a weird situation now in an empty Golden One Center.
Andrew, the fact that this night played out in such in real time and obviously in this unprecedented fashion, where we saw what happened in Oklahoma City, then the NBA announces that play is suspended. But after this game was scheduled to be held in Sacramento. Did you have any sense prior to them realizing that Kirkland was involved, whether they felt any apprehension or just found it odd, or just how were they processing the news, if at all?
I don't think anybody really figured it out until about 30 minutes before tip or so. The indication was, as soon as the NBA announced, I happened to be standing next to NBA officials and Pels officials at that time the exact release came out. And as soon as that happened, the indication immediately from the Pelicans and the Kings was that the game was going to be played. It wasn't until later on when the issue with the referee came up that people started to figure out, hey, maybe we shouldn't play this game. The Pelicans started to figure out, we don't really want to go on the court. It wasn't until then. Up until that point, the plan was for them to play this game.
Okay, that's interesting. So prior to realizing Courtney Kirkland was involved as an official, they were just like, all right,
Yes.
we're going to play this game. And then obviously that didn't happen. Andrew Lopez there in Sacramento. Appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. All right, here's a statement from the
No problem.
NBA.
Thank
To that point, the National Basketball Association game between the New Orleans Pelicans and Sacramento Kings scheduled for tonight at Golden One Center has been canceled. All right, so earlier I said postponed. They said canceled, postponed, canceled, whatever. The game was canceled out of an abundance of caution because one of the referees assigned to work in the game also worked a Utah Jazz game earlier this week. Earlier tonight, the NBA announced that a player on the Utah Jazz had preliminary tested positive for the coronavirus. Adrian Wojnarowski joins us again now. So that statement about Kirkland's involvement here, and so I guess that speaks to why these games can't go on, because it's, again, I called it sort of 6 degrees of Gobert. I mean, if anybody that would have shared the floor and been in contact with him, I guess, would reasonably consider someone that you don't want to be on the floor with tonight. So that's what happened. What's your understanding of that, Woj?
That's right, Scott. And the fact that the Jazz and Oklahoma City Thunder are both in Oklahoma City, still at the arena tonight, quarantined. I'm told that for the Jazz team to even get back to Utah, that there's got to be a cooperation there between, the Health Commission in Oklahoma and working in concert with those in Utah. You just don't get on a plane, even a team charter, and go home. And so if you have two teams that are in that self-quarantine, you can't play the rest of the schedule. The rest of the league can't go on if those two teams are there. So that made it easier, a clear decision for Adam Silver tonight to just suspend the season and then try to start gathering up the facts here as we move forward without games being played beyond tonight.
All right. Well, so business as usual is on hiatus as well. What will business be? I mean, what will the process for the league be as they wait to see if there are others, or how long it is before Gobert is okay? I mean, that's the bigger picture question I have for all of us. Like, how do any of us know when the coast is clear, so to speak? Do you have any sense of what the NBA intends to do while on hiatus?
Well, Mark Cuban told reporters in Dallas, according to Tim McMahon, that teams are allowed to continue practicing. They can stay together and keep working. But, I think for right now, and even yesterday in conversations I was having around the league about how they were going to move forward, the thing that kept coming back was there still had been so little testing done in this country, around the league, that they didn't know what this was going to look like in a week, 2 weeks. Well, it's a day later, and now we have our first player, Rudy Gobert, who has tested positive for the coronavirus. And listen, he may not be the last. And so for the league right now, they've got to get players are certainly going to get tested who have, whether it's on the Jazz, on opposing teams. I'm already hearing from agents tonight whose players on other teams want to get tested. And so that's going to move forward here. But I do know this. There's still a feeling around the league tonight that this season will resume at some point. But clearly it's going to be a truncated schedule.
That's a smaller concern for another day, I'm sure, as people in sports and the world at large are just trying to figure this out in real time, day by day, moment by moment. Woj, sit tight. More from you in just a moment. Malika Andrews joins us now live. And Malika, you've been in touch with players around the league and I guess in some cases maybe sharing the news with them that perhaps they did not know. What has been reaction among those who you've conversed with tonight?
Yeah, Scott, the players, the coaches, even the staff members that I've talked to said that they received the news that the rest of the NBA season has been postponed until further notice through Twitter, through texting with reporters, through talking to their teammates. And now I've even spoken to a couple of people who have come into contact with the Utah Jazz who had a player test positive for the coronavirus. And what they are concerned with now, they are waiting for team doctors to tell them, is a quarantine going to be necessary? And furthermore, for the players and for the staff members that are already on the road in different cities, will they have to quarantine in their hotel in a foreign city, or are they going to get the go-ahead to fly back to their home city, stay home there, and wait for further direction? But a lot of the players that I talked to really didn't think it was going to come to this. As recently as 24 hours ago, a lot of them still felt like they weren't ever going to play in arenas without fans. And so all of this happened very rapidly. They're all in constant contact with each other, just kind of trying to sort out what the next steps could possibly be. There's a lot of questions that these guys have right now.
Malika, how fearful are these guys? Not afraid of. I mean, the young and the well-fit are not at the most risk here, but just sort of how afraid are those who've been in contact that aren't at home of that fact that they're going to end up sort of stuck somewhere, unable to go home despite whatever resources they might have at their disposal?
Yeah, you know, there is a little bit of uncertainty and nervousness is what I'd call it over fear. Over the last couple of days, I've been told that the team doctors have really been stressing the do not panic because of exactly what you said, Scott. Because these guys are young, because they are not in the demographic that necessarily is going to be most affected for severe cases by the coronavirus. But still, they are a little bit nervous, and that is why you saw this steamroll effect happen so quickly where the league said, you know, we can't have these games going on anymore, because there were players that were already saying, hey, wait, this opponent that we're going to have in 2 days they played the Jazz 2, 3, 4, 5 days ago. And so that spread so quickly, and that discomfort spread so quickly that they couldn't risk putting the guys back on the court.
Do you have any sense that people in the league that you know thought that this was possible, tonight's eventuality, not playing in front of arenas with no fans, but not playing?
It all happened very quickly. No, is the short answer. I think a lot of guys, I know a lot of guys that I have spoken to all said that they didn't think that it was going to happen without fans, let alone happen where the season got postponed. Just last night, guys were still joking about what is it going to be like without fans? Will we still have music? I had one player tell me, oh, the trash talking is going to be off the charts because we don't have to watch our mouths anymore. So that's what they were just beginning to be able to process. They hadn't even wrapped their brains yet around the fact that this could get far more serious and games could be postponed or canceled.
Rudy Gobert was one who was joking earlier in the week, and now, ironically enough, he's patient zero, I guess you'd say, within the NBA. Malika, thank you so much for the time and the context. Always appreciate it.